All right, Nick, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. We can start to talk about the Bears. Everyone's been talking about them. They've been talking about all kinds of different matchups, battles, position groups, all across the Bears, training period. But I think there's one position in particular when we get to it, when you hear about it, it's kind of hard to say it fell under the radar. You wouldn't believe it, but it really has. People are not talking about it quite as much as they should. But I think it's really starting to stand out, and it fixes an egregiously huge issue on this Bears team. I think Bears fans are going to love this one. We'll dive into all of that here in just a second. But first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, when you talk about the Bears, as far as what is going on with this team, it's easy to get lost in the hustle bustle of what's Caleb Williams doing like at the quarterback position? How is Ben Johnson doing as a coach? You look at the offensive line battle between, Jones and Ozzie Trapillo, get lost in the sauce on that one as well. Who's winning that battle? But when it comes to the surefire things, the things that, this team knew there's going to be good players, I feel like Colston Loveland has kind of fallen out of the limelight. People aren't talking about this guy for being a top 10 pick, number one first round pick for the Bears. They're not talking about him quite as much as I would have liked them to. But when you start to hear the recent news, it is all good about what Colston Loveland is doing. I think Bears fans are going to love this one. Let's jump into the tweets, talking about what he's been doing recently at camp. So these are both over on X. First one's at Chris Emma. It says, on the first play of 7-on-7, Caleb Williams delivered a touchdown strike to Colston Loveland. That connection has been strong early in camp. So you love to hear about the connection between Loveland and Williams being strong. I think that is going to be something critical going into the season this year. And then finally, over on Clay Harbor on X at Clay Harbs82 says, Colston Loveland is going to be a threat in the red zone. That's very important here. He had a couple of touchdowns in 7-on-7. The unique blend of size and speed will be very difficult to match up with. And I think that's really interesting here. So these two tweets kind of show us there's a relationship building between Caleb Williams and Loveland, and then B, Loveland is a red zone machine. He catches touchdowns in the red zone like no one's business. And you think, okay, well, that's nice. We'll finally, get another weapon to the red zone touchdown arsenal that the Bears have. We pull up our first chart here showing the Bears red zone touchdown efficiency. On the bottom, you see red zone drives, and on the y-axis, you see the red zone touchdowns for the Bears. They're pretty horrible. There's actually no one in the league worse than them than the Cleveland Browns. And if you're neck and neck with the Cleveland Browns as far as where you are on the scheme of things, you never want to be in any category there. That is very, very bad. They are really bad at making it to the red zone and getting touchdowns in the red zone as well. So this is really something that has been needed for the Bears to get a red zone threat in there, get some better red zone offense. I think that the play calling, the ability to get to the red zone, Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams will fix that. But having the target to catch the touchdowns in the red zone, that's where Colston Loveland comes in. And let's look at Colston Loveland's catch chart from this past season and what he was able to do. This is a guy, when these are all his red zone catches from 2024, you look at it, over 50% of them were touchdowns. You have 7 catches total in the red zone. 4 of them were touchdowns. This is a guy that when he is targeted in the red zone, this guy is absolutely phenomenal. He does nothing but catch touchdowns in that 20 yards and in from the red zone. So Colston Loveland could be the answer to this Bears red zone conundrum. Who do they have to come in to really start being a threat in the red zone? They already got him. He's on their roster. He was their first round pick. So the fact that this guy comes in and really erases such a big issue for the Bears here, I think it's been overlooked that we're not hearing about it enough. Already we're starting to hear rumors, whisperings that in this training camp period, he's been great in the red zone. That is phenomenal. I think it's going to be a big one for the Bears. I think they're going to love all of this information. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Bears fans, in the comment section below, talking tight ends, pass catching tight ends, and talking a rich Bears history of great tight ends all throughout history. But let's maybe just limit to pass catching tight ends, guys who are big play type of dudes. who's your favorite Bears pass catching tight end of all time? There's a lot of really great answers, but let us know in the comment section below. Who's your favorite Bears pass catching tight end of all time in the comment section below? While you're down there, make sure to check out in the description below the video the link to our Substack newsletter. Go ahead, subscribe to it. We give all kinds of great content, extra content, articles, things that we like, graphs, charts, data, and analytics, things that I think you'll love. And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. All you got to do is subscribe, shows up weekly in your email inbox, gives you all kinds of great football data to help tide you over. We're very close, but you still could use a little bit of help making it to the real football season. So check it out. Cost you nothing. If you hate it, you could always unsubscribe, but you won't hate it. You're going to love it. Check that out in the description below the video. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on everything here for the Bears?
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very rare that a team's first round pick, certainly a top 10 pick, certainly a player with as much pedigree as Colston Loveland is forgotten or underrated or under the radar, whatever adjective you want to use. That's exactly what has happened here, right? The Bears, when they selected all of their draft picks at the top, we looked forward and said, oh, Luther Burden, great value. Ozzie Trapio, he's got a chance to do some things. But everyone at the draft was like, Colston Loveland, this was a gem. Phenomenal move by Ben Johnson, phenomenal move by Ryan Poles and the Bears. But what happens, right? Because of the injury, a little bit of out of sight, out of mind. Don't see a lot of plays. Obviously he's back through injuries, doing some good things in terms of getting good relationships and timing and all that kind of stuff, but not getting on the field. No rookie mini camp highlights to talk about, no OTA highlights to talk about, nothing of any buzz, of any reporting, no beat writer talking about what a great one handed catch or whatever, the way we see from a lot of other players as we work our way through training camp. But Colston Loveland was the best football player the Bears selected in the 2025 draft. And no offense to anybody else, but it's not even close. He was a complete package, a phenomenal tight end prospect. And you've already seen not just what he's doing, making some plays now in Bears camp, getting involved addressing red zone. I think that's very critical that you brought up. There's been a lot of impressive things he's done from the mental side of the game as well. In fact, Ben Johnson, according to sportsmockery.com, during an interview recently said, listen, he doesn't see the game as a tight end. He sees it as a quarterback. And for a very cerebral minded guy like Ben Johnson, who does a lot of complex things offensively, that's an indication that Johnson says it publicly that he's got a lot of things in mind for Colston Loveland. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be like a trick play magnet or something. He's going to be throwing passes like a quarterback, but I'm talking complex schemes. I'm talking complex concepts, getting him involved in 400, 500 level football instead of rookie, freshman, 100, 200 level football. And Loveland impressing in the red zone where things get harder, things get more condensed, obviously, is a great sign that the Bears, Johnson, Williams are all seeing him as a key part of their offense. And if you go back to Ben Johnson's time with the Detroit Lions, everyone looks at the great tight end they selected out of Iowa, Sam LaPorta. He was one of those underrated aspects. The Lions, of course, Dan Campbell makes the headlines. Jared Goff, great receivers, good running game. But Laporta's emergence as a rookie in 2023, when he caught 86 passes, 10 touchdowns, almost offensive rookie of the year, made the Pro Bowl. He was that sort of final piece that put them over the top. And when you look at the Bears offense, that could be what they're missing. We talked about it earlier this offseason. Cole Kmet is a relatively big name, but based on the advanced analytics, he was outside of the top 30, not 13, not three, top 30, 3-0 in terms of receiving efficiency at the tight end position last year. Big name, good player for most of his career, but the reality is he was not a good performer in any capacity last year for Chicago. If they can get better at the tight end position, like you said, improving the red zone, this offense could take a massive leap because it's one of those things when it comes to the Bears, because of the pieces they have, they don't need a wholesale change. They don't need a massive leap forward. They needed a strategic change. We obviously knew that. New offensive coordinator, new play caller, Johnson got that. But you just need a few extra pieces, a few incremental additions, and Caleb Williams could take this team to another level because we saw them at times last year do a lot of good things offensively. Just there were a few games where the pass protection broke down, bad strategies, things like that. And that's exactly what the Bears have fixed this offseason. Now, we have to see what happens at the left tackle position, that position battle that you alluded to earlier. That's going to be a critical one to watch. But we look at the skill players and just look at what they're doing and the new guys added into the fold, specifically Colston Loveland. Although Richardson, the undrafted free agent, Luther Burden doing some good things as well. There's a lot of good things to like when it comes to the young guys in this Bears offense. I think this is a team that got incrementally better at a lot of positions and significantly better at tight end. And when you aggregate all these additions and improvements, we're going to see a massive leap forward for the Bears offensively. Now they have to protect and they have to execute, and Caleb Williams has to take a year two leap. those are obviously the huge things, huge questions that honestly won't be answered until we start playing football on Sundays in a few weeks. But the reality is the fact that Colston Loveland, their first round pick, top 10 guy, got completely unnoticed by the media, completely unnoticed by most people following football, even though he was one of the big name prospects. A lot of people had him as a top 5 football player overall in the 2025 draft. The fact that people kind of dismissed that when it came to the Bears, that they got this player, I think is an indication he's going to explode on people. Because again, the out of sight, out of mind fallacy is going to be completely wiped away. It's starting to be wiped away because Loveland is showing up and showing up in a big way for this Bears offense.
Yeah, Nick, and I think when you look at this Bears offense, and you look at what they had as far as weapons, or what they have now as far as weapons, even you need that big pass catching target. In this case, Loveland, he could be a wide receiver, but he's tight end. This guy is a big target. He's that 6'5", 250-pound guy that you need. And Cole Kmet was a guy that is similar. He's still on the team. He is still a guy that's similar. But if you look at the red zone chart from that I showed earlier, obviously he's not that effective in the red zone. There was a team that really did very poorly in the red zone, about as bad as we could possibly get. So when Loveland comes in, this is what they needed. Because you look at other guys, Odun's pretty tall, he's 6'3", but you look at Zacchaeus, he's 5'8". DJ Moore is 5'11". You need that big target in the red zone that's easily identifiable, trustworthy, that safety blanket that this is the guy pops in, you hit him in the red zone, boom, touchdown. It reminds me of so many other teams around the league that have that elite tight end that is a safety blanket in the red zone. The Ravens have two, and Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. The Chiefs have had Travis Kelce for so long. 49ers have had George Kittle. And there's like literally 5 to 7 more guys that I could name that are just as good and just as important to these really good teams. And I think Colston Loveland, he's next up. Obviously, the big one I'm missing right here is, like you said, LaPorta with the Lions. That guy's doing really well. Good stuff here. So Colston Loveland, I think he's going to be critical. I don't think people understand how big of an addition a top tier pass catching tight end can be to a good team. It is very, very crucial in today's game. I think the tight end position gets kind of discounted, but Colston Loveland isn't a tight end. He's a weapon at the tight end position. I don't think you can put him into that box anymore. So this guy's going to be big. I don't even think we need to wait and see what happens. I know for certain Colston Loveland is going to make a huge impact on this team in not only the red zone, but just as a general pass catching weapon for the Bears.